Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about kind of just what's going on in the market overall, because we're seeing all-time highs after all-time highs everywhere. Things are getting crazy, and so I want to talk a little bit about kind of how this is looking and how things are kind of shaping up in the overall market. A little bit about Bitcoin, because obviously since it at least doesn't appear that Bitcoin has topped out yet, all things kind of run still through Bitcoin. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that, but also we're seeing some fantastic moves from the alts today. If we take a look here at crypto bubbles, we can see just extreme gains going on everywhere. Yes, this is in fact daily gains. So I mean we're seeing up XLM up 44%, DOT 34%, Jasmy 30%, TIA 33%. I mean, just tons and tons and tons of craziness going on here. And so obviously, things looking really good for alts. Bitcoin actually down 1.3% on the day. So Bitcoin kind of stalling out a little bit. We're going to talk about that here in a second, just because Bitcoin obviously has been rock solid. And so a little bit of a slowdown, not necessarily the end of the world here. What we can see though is just because of all the alts moving, we are kind of creeping a little bit over closer to altcoin season. But as we've mentioned, it's still Bitcoin's time of the crypto cycle, and so I don't expect to see anything too crazy going on as far as like this shooting up into altcoin season. I think Bitcoin still has some further moves to make. Again, we'll take a look at the chart, see kind of what we're seeing there, but overall I want to take a look at the market overview, just kind of seeing where everything is at. And as we can see, obviously open interest pulled back a tiny bit from where we were all-time highs, only about $500 million. Obviously a lot, but when we're talking about 64 billion overall, not a huge amount. Things still looking really good. As we have talked about, we've seen open interest just absolutely explode over the past month or so. Things looking really good there. As we can see on the liquidation map though, price, at least in the short term, actually favoring a move to the upside, because liquidations are kind of starting to stack up. Shorts are mounting, and so but what we can see though on the 7-day, still massively favored towards a move to the downside. I do think potentially we see a move back down to 96 range, 96 and a half potentially, before we continue a run up. It's kind of my opinion or my belief that we're probably going to hit at or very close to 100K. We did hit 99,500 yesterday, so that could have potentially been it. And then I do think we probably will see a little bit of a larger pullback, just because I think that's kind of how it's going to shape up in the market. Things have kind of moved pretty dramatically, so it would not at all surprise me if we start to see a pullback, just to kind of loosen people's grips on their crypto and shake some people out, a lot of that type of stuff. But moving on, what we can see, fear and greed index 93%, very heavily in extreme greed, which generally is not a great sign when we're looking at kind of the short-term viability of crypto. Again, looking at the RSI heat map too, we can see the overall crypto market is sitting in strong, with more and more coins creeping up into this overbought category. Given what we just saw in crypto bubbles, I think this probably makes sense, right? We've seen massive moves up kind of wholesale in the market. So, things are looking a little bit overextended at this point. Not necessarily a guarantee that, that things will come back. As we do know, one of the great sayings of all time in terms of investing is the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. So just always remember that when you're trading, especially if you're doing leverage trading or doing, kind of high risk types of trading. It is not without risk, but what we've seen so far in this market, things are looking absolutely fantastic. And as long as you're being kind of careful and safe about it, I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue. What we can see looking at the Bitcoin chart here is we've got the Fib retracement. Obviously, we had this trend line that we were following, at least a little bit. I do think there's a possibility, I keep talking about this potential pullback. I do think there's this possibility maybe we come back, down to this trend line, because, even towards the end of the year, that's 87,000. So I could see maybe a little bit of a pull, kind of something like this. Let me actually draw a picture. But maybe we see a little bit of a pull, kind of doing something like this maybe, and then we bounce and kind of send up kind of to the second leg of the market, at least is what I would call it. If we did come back here to here, that'd be about a 20-ish% drop, kind of depending on how quickly we get back to this trend line. If we were to essentially move right back down to the trend line right now, that'd be about a 25% drop. Now keep in mind, we have in previous bull markets seen Bitcoin pull 20 to 30% back before continuing to what is ultimately its kind of ultimate all-time highs. And so I do think, maybe it's a little bit deeper. Maybe we pull back a little bit faster. Maybe we don't. Maybe we just kind of keep going up only. It's hard to say overall. I do think we probably will see a pullback, but when, very, very hard to say. I mean, the RSI definitely showing that we are still overbought. We've been overbought basically for couple weeks at this point. We can see the kind of next point, at least as far as the fib extension is concerned, is the 2618, right around 115,000. I do have this resistance line here. You guys all might be like, well, what is this resistance line here? We're pushing all-time highs. How do we have a point of resistance? And for me, it's pretty clear. I mean, 100,000. I think 100,000 is going to be a very, very stiff point of psychological resistance. I obviously do think once we do break through it, though, massively, massively bullish news. So if we zoom in a little bit here, we can see, we creeped up ever so slightly to that point of resistance, and now we are pulling back. So, again, how far this pullback is, or maybe if it's just kind of a momentary wick, all are possibilities. Hard to say, definitely for sure which, but things looking good overall in the crypto market still. I mean, I think a lot of what we're seeing here is kind of the best possible outcome that we could have imagined being crypto holders. And so if you are interested in trading some of this volatility, whether you're waiting for a Bitcoin pullback or looking to trade some of the ridiculous gains that we've seen out of altcoins recently, you can feel free to use BTCC. I'm working with BTCC this month. They've put together a really, really fantastic offer, 10% bonus on all first-time deposits, which I think is a super great deal. I mean, if you're looking for a place to trade anyway, I would say BTCC is a nice platform to do so, and you essentially are getting 10% free money of whatever you deposit, which is great. If you're looking to buy more Bitcoin, or ICP is a mainstay on this channel, Jasmy. We've seen major moves out of XRP, Cardano. If you want to trade some of those types of things, any of those are options on BTCC. They trade over 300 plus pairs, as you can see. But in addition to the 10% bonus on the first time deposits, you also you're still eligible for the $10,055 of rewards, basically for being a new user. So tons of opportunity here. If you are interested, feel free to get signed up to BTCC. As I said, 300 plus crypto futures, up to 500x leverage if that's something that you want to do, and then no VPN or KYC necessary. You also can just trade spot too if you don't believe in leverage. I know there are a lot of people who have issues with leverage, and I totally understand that. You have to do what you feel comfortable with. If we do look here, they also have tokenized stocks and commodities, which is kind of cool. MicroStrategy, Coinbase are two that have been going nuts lately. And so, trading those, particularly if you traded them on leverage, you probably would have done really quite well for yourself. So anyway, like I said, if you are interested in trading on BTCC, just feel free to check the link in my description. Moving on, I have one last major piece of news that I want to share with you guys, because yesterday we actually saw that China has now declared holding crypto legal, which is fantastic news, because people have kind of been, all of us, I would say, have kind of generally been speculating over the past 2 or 3 months that this would likely happen. I mean, there's a lot of people in China who kind of hold crypto anyway, but having this kind of path to legality kind of opened up is going to make institutional adoption, and also just wider, normal retail adoption within China, a lot more doable as well. Because there are some people who don't necessarily care about laws that they don't agree with, particularly relating to crypto, especially with ones that are kind of hard to enforce. But there are some people they just follow the law always, right? And obviously I would say that's probably the majority of us who sit in that camp. And so the people who were just following the law because that's what it was in China are now going to have this opportunity opened up to them to essentially buy Bitcoin and trade crypto and do all of this other stuff. I do think the US taking the possible move of turning Bitcoin, or creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve, is going to do absolutely massive major things within essentially getting other governments to participate. Because if crypto, and Bitcoin specifically, continues to go up, and we're hitting this $13 million a coin price target that Michael Saylor has for 2045, if countries are holding substantial amounts of this asset and it's just going crazy, it's going to put the other global economies in a somewhat of a disadvantageous state, because they haven't gotten on board, right? And so especially where China is essentially vying to be one of the top global superpowers, kind of alongside the US doing this, in a sense, kind of forces their hand, which I do think is kind of an interesting development. And so I am really looking quite closely to see how China and the Chinese government and all this type of stuff kind of reacts to some of these potential legislative changes that are coming out of the US, because I think the US's hostility or hesitancy to kind of adopt crypto kind of in a full-throated manner is something that has kind of given other major economies around the world, I would say Europe and China particularly, kind of the opportunity. I guess we could even throw Russia in there also. It's given them kind of the opportunity to not really have to pay attention or be forced to make a decision on things like crypto. We have seen that, Russia has unbanned crypto, particularly Bitcoin mining. China is now going that way. And I don't think this is at all a coincidence, because we now, it appears, are going to be having a very, very, very pro-crypto president, government, Congress, all the things. And so I think, it's kind of forcing the hand of a lot of the other people on an international stage. And so that's obviously very, very good if you're a crypto holder. Even if you're not, I just think it's going to be good for just technical progress. I mean, if you're watching this channel, you're probably a crypto holder, so it doesn't really matter. But even if, just crypto holders aside, we can see what the internet has done for the world just generally, right? So I do genuinely believe that crypto and AI and a lot of this type of stuff are going to push us down that path even further. And so being hesitant and resistant towards it just frankly doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. So I'm very glad that we are starting to see a little bit more of embrace of some of these new technologies, and especially in a way that hopefully is going to be somewhat responsible and reasonably handled with a lot of this stuff. So anyway, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and subscribe. It really does help me out, especially getting pushed further on the YouTube algorithm and getting more people to watch the channel, all that type of stuff. A like and subscribe really is kind of the best way you can help me, as well as watching the videos all the way through. If you are still here, that's probably not a big of a concern. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, just feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those, so if you have anything that you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.